So here we are on the cut walk. This ditch on my left is the aqueduct, essentially, that they dug into the side of the hills. We're about 120 meters above sea level, I guess. Over on the right hand side is Greenock. Just about see the cranes. This is in the top tours in the UK, walking walks, and there's a reason for it. It is easy because it follows a water line. It is level, which means obviously it is pretty much, no climbing involved. The path is fairly decent, so you could argue that somebody who's capable with a wheelchair could even do this to a degree, I suppose. And where we'll end up is at the Cut Visitor Centre, also the home of the Clyde Mushiel Park Rangers, a large park which looks after the moorlands, which is to my left and behind me. Now, usually if there's no mist, we can see the Argylls, the Clyde, Arun, you name it. So we'll see when we get around the other side if we have any luck there. So while we're walking, I'll give you a bit of information. This aqueduct was dug out over about 3 years. It's about 2 meters deep and 2 meters wide originally, and was bricked up. So it was meant to bring water to the industry in Greenock. The side of the hill where this starts used to be full of industry, all the way from mills to distilleries. So initially this was meant to deliver water to these running, basically powering them. It was built started in 1825, finished 3 years later. Took about 300 men to dig continuously, and funny enough, it was only years later that they decided that this water could also be used for clean drinking water. So dare I say, in the past it was the same as now, where corporations take preference. Money rules. There goes my 2 pence. So anyway, there's still some heather out, just a wee bit. But I've noticed that the trees are changing, which is always nice. The trees are changing. So this aqueduct is fed by Loch Tom, The name is derived from the engineer who built this, Robert Tom. He first built something similar on a smaller scale across the water on Bute, and so when this sort of solution was required, they went to him, and he basically engineered this whole system. So the cut itself, the actual waterway, is about 6 to 7 kilometers, and it comes from Loch Tom. But over the years they've added additional lochs, little catchment areas and additional little funnels that feed the cut in the hills behind us here. So it's actually quite an extensive network. There's even some dams like the Murdiston Dam in Greenock, which forms part of this whole water system. The system is not used anymore, as you can see. It's dried up. That is because they now have a pipe going straight from Loch Tom all the way into the waterworks close to where we actually parked the car, which I never showed you, but I'll show you when we get to the end. So that's now all done, all modern with pumping stations and all that. But in the past it was all gravity fed, and the engineering, actually there's a wee spot I'll show you how clever engineering used to be. No reliance on digital technology, and probably a little bit more reliable as well. I don't know if anybody's ever seen sheep gates. So obviously you can either open it like that, or if you just want to get through yourself, you can just move it to one side and move it back. So here's a lovely wee stretch where a lot of folk take photos. If it's been raining, there's water running here all the time. Oh my god, look at all the I hope this comes out on the footage, all the spider webs in the gorse. That's pretty. So this is obviously some sort of wee station here where water flows together from different canals, and this is one of the overflow systems. I will show you one that has been reconstructed because I find that very interesting, and how they work. They are really clever. They basically prevent the channel from spilling its banks. So there is a point later on where we can see one that has been rebuilt. It's a bit cold up here, so excuse my sniffling. Well, not cold, maybe about 12, 13 degrees, maybe a bit less. But it's beautiful. Right, so it looks like the mist is clearing. Let me quickly change the way that this dongle works. That's better. So these are one of the bridges built. These bridges were set up so that the farmers can get from their fields over to the other side, because obviously about 6 kilometers was cut off. So hello, Greenock. Now just where the clouds are, the mist is lying on top of the Clyde, which is awesome. And down there, the piece of water that you see is the Murdiston Dam. And then that brown building with the field just there, that is Greenock prison. That is also where McGrahy was held until the end, when he was then finally released back to Libya, because he had cancer and hardly had any time to live. So back to the path. So if anybody's wondering how to get here, it's basically at the back of Greenock. It's well signposted. It's also well marked on Google Maps. So all you need to do is really take a train or car into Greenock. By car you just drive up to Windhill Primary, which is also a Gaelic school, or has a Gaelic unit, and that's also where our children are in the Gaelic unit. All three of them have been in there. So I hope by the time we get around the corner we've got a better view of the Clyde and the islands, Holy Loch, Loch Long, Gaelloch, the Noon, and a good day you can see pretty far. So we're going to cover some ground and then I'll get back to you. So I'm back. Let's have a look at this magnificent. It really is truly inspiring. So gonna go back to the path. You don't want to see my face. So what you can do is go online and Google some pictures of the Greenock Cut, and obviously you'll find a lot of modern ones, people taking pics up here, wonderful. But actually there's some pictures of the Victorian times, because this path that we're on was actually in really good state, and it was a draw from all over. Hello sheepos, good morning. So people came from all over and they put on their best Sunday clothes. And how do we wander around? I find that hilarious. Walking this with your Victorian attire, being all posh, tipping your top hat to passers-by. Yes, good morning, sir. Jolly good show, what? Anyway, we are nearing the end of Greenock. We're going to come around the corner. That big fat brown building is the IRH, that is the local hospital. That is where two of mine were born. It's a shame that these clouds are not shifting for us today, although it does make for a pretty picture even without the water. I can see the yellow trucks on our road. We just live just across. I can see the yellow trucks because they're redoing our pavement. And I don't know if you've noticed, but slowly but surely the trees are turning. So it's gonna get mighty pretty soon. So here we are. This is Spango Valley. I don't know if the camera picks it up nicely, but you can see the valley down below. There's some work going on down the bottom. You see some flat pieces. There was obviously something there, and what was there was a massive IBM site. On that site they built the AS400 banking machines, the RS6000 machines. They put together quite a few of the supercomputers here for the universities. They built laptops, well, they assembled laptops, assembled kind of enterprise servers, entry servers, the original IBM PCs. They did product testing, where they dropped the machines over and over and changed the heat in cycles from minus whatever it was, I can't remember, all the way to like 40-50 degrees. It all happened here. The TFT monitor was partly designed here, and the design of the winning design came from a lady in Greenock for one of the first TFT monitors. The site, I left IBM in 2010. It was already in decline by that time. Just like the shipbuilding in Greenock, manufacturing has pretty much moved away eastwards, and IBM changed to become basically just a service and research facility, but company. And so the manufacturing disappeared, and therefore also the site disappeared. There was a call center there which was purpose built. Now there's method to my madness. I don't want to bore you with companies, but there's a bit of history here. So this call center came into play in 1998, and it actually housed nearly all the European countries' call center functions under one roof. So it was pretty funny when somebody tried to get somebody and asked you if you could please jump up to the office and call so and so, and then you've got to inform the poor bastard that actually I'm sitting in Scotland. It's funny. Anywho, why this site's important is because when they initially bought this land, they purchased it off the local farmers here. Then they started excavating to build, and they found one of the biggest Roman hoards that was ever found in Scotland, which obviously halted work, and they had to do all sorts of archaeological work. And then when they built the call center, they found more Roman hoards as well. So, morning. The site was about, I don't know, I think 2 miles long nearly, or 2 kilometers I would say. We used to be able to walk around it during lunchtime in about 45-50 minutes at a good pace. The other thing, it was basically the biggest site in the UK other than, I think, Hursley, which is IBM Research and Development. So it was IBM's foothold into Europe, never mind the UK. So the other thing, it was probably came here because Greenock had such a history of manufacturing, and so that was a good step. And by the time they came in here, they were still building punch cards and punch card machines and stuff like that for all the tech nerdies out there. But yeah, I used to get my laptops from the product review department, because what ended up is from here they would hand out and make the computers. They would go to movies, including James Bond and all that. They all got their gear from here. So laptops and all the kind of, when you see the graphics running on the machines in the movie, a lot of that was done here. And when the laptops and the stuff came back, they've got nothing to do with them. And internally they had like a monetary system. So departments wanted to get things off their books because it cost them money, and so they would just give it to you. Now, not to keep, but if you went through the normal ways, you got shitty little entry-level machines, and I always managed to get like nice, good graphical, fast machines that were built for 3D rendering or CAD, things like that. So nice, fast-moving machines. So there's the valley. So, and that's the other thing. But because of this big technical digital valley, it was called Scotland's Silicon Valley. Aptly named. Now, to give you a bit of a testament of this valley, it kind of points southwestish, and our prevailing winds are from the west, coming over the Atlantic, and during winter we can get a good 100 miles an hour winds fairly regularly. So this big building that we were in, the wind came up, hit us at about 120 miles an hour for the whole day, right into the night. And while we were working, the roof peeled off like a sardine can. So that caused a little bit of a mayhem, and all the debris from the roof fell into the road, which led out, so nobody could get their cars out because it was full of debris. So another thing that's missing now was one of the last complete anechoic chambers in Europe. And see if the site's still there. Yeah. The anechoic chamber is obviously, for those who don't know, it's a chamber which is completely cut off from the outside world, electromagnetically, earth vibrations and noise. And down there where those workers are, to the right is the road, and that's where the chamber was. And the reason they built this here was so they can test the noise levels of their hard drives and all their mechanical stuff that went into their PCs. So another massive loss, in my opinion, to this area. But it does pay homage to the manufacturing and technical past and the importance of Greenock, which I fear so many people have forgotten or don't think about. People who live here are kind of, they don't really think about what they had here. Now, this is a cool space here. What we used to do during lunchtime, site is down there. There's like a little bridge over the railway line, jump over a fence, up the farmer's field, through the undergrowth here, and then up here for lunch. Take you 10 minutes, have your lunch up here and back down again. So I'm just showing you some of the nicest spots of this walk. So during summer, we do take people on guided walks here. During the summer month, actually we do it all year round. We used to do it all year round. Even in winter, all this is obviously frozen up and there's ice everywhere. But on a clear day, it is absolutely beautiful. So, there's a lot more history and interesting things to talk about here. And so we do like a guided tour. We talk about Greenock, we talk about Spango Valley, we talk about the cut and its history. We also end up at the Clyde Moorfield Centre, and the wardens are usually pretty happy to give you information, because the Clyde Moorfield Park is an attempt to do two things. It used to be, I'm sure it's still the same thing, that is to protect the moorland ecosystem, and it's also trying to replant Caledonian and ancient forests that used to be here. So they're doing two things. The reason they're trying to protect the moorland, there's quite a few species here which, like in many moorlands, that only exist in that ecosystem, so they are obviously protected. Not just animals, but also plants like orchids and all sorts of things. Orchids. So we're coming up to a little house, and I wanted to show you that quickly. That massive tree is now really grown. So these guys were working day and night, winter, summer, rain, storm, hail, you name it. So there were these little houses that were built where they could find shelter. Here's one of them. I mean, just look at this. This is too good to be true. What a morning. So here's the wee house. As you can see, still a chimney. Sorry, gotta jump in here. Probably gonna fall. That's mighty pretty. Anyway, back in a minute. And we're back. We're a bit further down the line. We've got the Clyde now in view thanks to the clouds lifting a little bit, or the mist lifting. Just looking at those lines of clouds are just making me happy. We are now coming up to, actually to the left of us is Dunrod, and down the bottom there is a wee bridge and a farm, and a little mound there which limits the old Dunrod Castle, of which there's nothing left. Dunrod was a Lindsay castle, and most of the stone of that has now been used to build walls and new farm buildings. This was around 1860, there was nothing left. Apparently he danced with the devil in the pale moonlight. There's all sorts of rumours about him, as there always are. Yeah, so we're pretty lucky where we are, what we can do and see. Minutes from our house. That's why I always share a thought to those who have been going through the whole COVID lockdown crisis, and they might be stuck in a city or big suburb or a flat. It must have been very isolating indeed. The wee town that you see there, and the marina, that's Inverkip Marina, and the town of Inverkip, supposedly town where the last witch was burnt in Scotland. Some coos down the bottom. Oh, look at the light. That's how it's done. That's the thing when you come to Scotland and you don't know much about photography, it doesn't matter. You just point your camera in any sort of direction and click, and you can't go wrong. It always looks good. More folk having a wander. Morning.
Morning.
Hi. My bag is a bit big, so I struggle to get through it. Right. Now there's the road down there. Comes off the main road turns off to the east, and that road takes you all the way first to the cut centre, Loch Tom, and then you can either go back to Greenock or down to Largs. The road down to Largs is a stunning road through, firstly through some moorland, past Loch Tom, hugging Loch Tom, then through the moorlands, and then through a slightly forested area. And then you come up the back of Largs, the north end. It's all been done before. So here's one of my favorite things about this walk. A little bit of history which shows you how we overcomplicate things. So now imagine we build a similar system today to run water. How many digital relays and managing stations and how many people and software needs to be written to manage that thing? Nah, not in 1825. In 1825 you do things very simply. So here we are at one of the rebuilt things. They are like sluice gates. Let me just turn this around. So what they do is they prevent this from overflowing. So let's go have a wee oggle. Oh, by the way, the brambles are everywhere, and anybody who goes walking on. So this is the whole system. You have a bucket. Let me just get my camera to work with me. Okay, so you have a bucket, you have a pipe which goes into the canal itself, and then you have a wee gate, a wee sluice. Now the trick here is that the bucket has got holes in it, so when the top pipe reaches the water, when the water reaches the top pipe, it folds the bucket gets heavy, it pulls the sluice open, it releases the water, and at some point it is low enough for the bucket not to be filled anymore, and because the bucket has holes in it, the water drains out, becomes lighter than the counterweight, and the sluice closes back down. So you can just leave it alone and it'll just do its job, unlike pretty much any IT system I've ever seen in my life. So there you go. Very, 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 very clever. And they say these folk didn't know what they were doing. The engineering in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution was really, really clever. Look at all these brambles. There's tons more. This whole place is full of brambles. Just don't eat the ones at the low points because that's where the dogs pee. Anyway, nearing the end. Usually there's some ducks here in the beginning of the year with their little ducklings around about this area. Cutest little things. Right, switch this off. If you wonder what this little pommel is to get some ambient audio. So anyway, coming up to a wee farm, and legend has it this is where a guy called Caskey spent some time. Now, actually, to be honest with you, I've not found any proof of that yet, but I'll tell you the story anyway. Here's the farm here. So this is the story of a guy called Donald Caskey, or otherwise known as the Tartan Pimpernel. Classic story. He was born in Bowmore on Islay, in the parish of Bowmore. He was then seconded to Paris between the years of the war. There's some conflicting information. Some say between 1939 and 1945, but apparently in his own biography much earlier. Irrelevant. His story is one of bravery and interesting stuff. For example, so he was a Gaelic speaker. He was in the Gaelic parish as well. And so when he went to France, the story is that he helped over 500 people, soldiers, etc., escape through a network of churches that between himself and other French parishioners have set up. He was also caught twice, apparently, managing to escape execution both times. Folklore has it that he pretended he couldn't speak German or English or French, only Gaelic. I don't know how true that is. He then ended up back in Scotland afterwards, and he was in the Greenock and Inverkip parish. So, and apparently he lived around here, or these are his descendants, I'm not sure. On it. We're now basically on the last leg of our little walk until we get to the cut centre. And we now turn into a little bit more forested area. To our right is a deep ditch and the end of another walk, which is the Kelly Walk. Nice deep ditch down there. So one thing to note, anybody who's watching this and they want to do the cut walk, I have no idea, and you never have any idea, since the last few years, if the public toilets up here are actually open or not. So considering it's about a 2.5 hour walk to get here, and then another nearly an hour walk to get back to the car park where we parked, you might want to keep that in mind if you have a bit of a small bladder issue. A lot of it here is run by volunteers, and so it's a little bit tricky to always make sure that the toilets are open, which is a real shame because the spot can be buzzing sometimes and the toilets are shut. Anyway, just something to keep in mind. You can already hear the water. That's the flow of the river itself, the Kip. Hence why Inverkip, for those who don't know, Inver basically means the mouth of a river. So any Scottish town that has Inver in front of it, it is literally called after the mouth of the river where it's situated. So Inverkip is at the mouth of the Kip River. can already see the cut center up there. And some sheepos. Not like there's a lack of them. Some Scots pine right in front of us. Unfortunately, no red squirrels. Well, that would be something if they introduced them here. I think they should introduce wolves here. A few deer, a nice pack of wolves. That would literally be awesome. Okay. Now what they did was a dam that fills an aqueduct has what they call a compensation dam. That is a body of water, a smaller body of water than the dam, that is always kept at an exact height. So the water that you hear running, sometimes the compensation dam is overflowing. You've got a nice waterfall here. More folks. Morning.
Nice morning.
No, don't see the water running. Hold on, I've always wanted to do this. Apologies. Oh, that water's running a bit. There you go. You get rewarded with a waterfall for your patience. Isn't that pretty? Oh shit, what's going on? Alright, okay. So this was the old gate, sluice gate for the cut. This is the start of it essentially, right here. That's the wee bridge. And we're at the center. Now we might go and speak to the guys at the center because they have a little fishing going here. Toilet shut, center shut. Let's see if the guys are in. This is the wall of the compensation dam. Let's see if Mike's in. Oh, Doug. Doug. Hello, Doug.
Sorry, I got sidetracked by this little robin. Old tame. He was fine, I'm sure, but you could literally give him a wee cuddle. So, had to be done. So this is actually inside the museum itself, at the visitor center, and it shows, you know, what was actually driven by the water. It shows a bit of the lay of the land, history, a bit about Loch Tom. It even goes into some of the facts about how dirty the water was and why they eventually started using the water from the cut, the fresh water, also for human use, for the public. This section here, this shows you what the walls of the aqueduct actually look like. So with these kind of bricks that they set up in certain parts of the cut, you can still see that. And obviously the bust of Mr. Tom himself, all regal. That is a little diagram of how the little sluice works, and that was what I showed you earlier. A little automatic sluice gate to prevent overflow of the aqueduct itself. And because this is a center of a park, they also bring in kids and have little workshops and all sorts, and that's what this hall is all about. So there's all sorts of information, and school kids will come in and they'll do a little workshop. Yeah, this guy wasn't my friend. Eventually the ranger gave me some treats for him, and I could actually give him a wee clap. But
come here, people want to see your face. Come on, come on. You don't have to be scared. I don't have anything for you except a banana. Our dog doesn't eat banana. Come on.
He's such a sweetheart.
You be cool. Right,
That's
thank you
goodish.
very much. I'm done. I just wanted.
So the next piece, this is quite common in the hills. So there were lots of planes flying around between the World War and also the Second World War. A lot of them were kind of like training planes, postal planes, reconnaissance, and a lot of them ended up hitting the hills in the fog. This is the remains of one of the aeroplanes that were found, one of the wreckages. So there's quite a few wreckages. Just in that Clyde-Murchill area, there's about 3 or 4, all from Clyde-Murchill all the way to the back of Largs. This is a little path that comes off from the centre.
This piece goes up to Dunrod Hill, but the hill in front of us is not Dunrod Hill. Although we've been up this hill, I'm not gonna go there now. From the top of that hill, you can pretty much see the whole of Clyde-Murchill. Dunrod Hill is just behind this hill over there, and then obviously you can imagine you can see absolutely everything from there on a clear day.
So I want to give a little bit of a shout out to these guys here. This is the Ardgowan fishery. They are on the compensation dam, really. You can get trout there, you can go trout fishing. The reason I want to give them a shout out, they've been amazing to us through the years when we bring tours that even from the ship, you know, the poor guys having to make, you know, 30-40 coffees a shot when we bring a whole crew of cruise ship passengers to them. They've got some koi here. They also have some raccoon dogs, which you'll see in a minute. So yeah, if you take a day out, go walking in the Clyde-Murchill Park, make sure you end up at the fishery. They have a little cafe. The meat that they use for their burgers comes from a very well-respected butcher, so
here's something
really
cool.
nice visit.
Seiko and Charlie, they are the only 2 raccoon dogs in Scotland. Well, they have a tendency to escape, but I've got a suspicion people come and they swipe them because they're so rare, and so most likely they think that they're worth something. And then once they got them, they probably realize how horrifically bad they smell, and then they get rid of them very, 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 very fast. So they're from Japan. They look like raccoons, but they're dogs, as far as I understand. Anyway, oh, there, that smell just hit me. Oh my god. Anyway. Back on the road, just had a coffee behind me at the fishery, and we're now going to head back to the car. It should take about 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. That is the compensation dam here, and we're going to head up towards the dam wall. You can see they're doing some work there. So the reason we're mentioning the fishery is because when we go on tour, it's not a halfway stop, but it is a stop nonetheless. And you can have a coffee. They actually get their meat for their burgers and their chicken burgers from a really good butcher. So a really good stop if you're into fishing, trout and the likes. Yeah, this is the place to come to. I'm gonna turn you around. This is my dearest. Hello. What do you want for lunch? I am literally filming at the time, but never mind. A pasty? Okay, what do you want for dinner? Anyway, you're ruining my filming. I'll figure something out. I'll get you a pasty. Okay. I just left the visitor center, so I don't know, maybe half an hour to the car. Okay. Bye bye. Ahead of us is the dam. Look at this lovely moorland. That's the hill you can get up. See the clouds lifted now. Bet you can see everything we didn't see earlier today. So here's another wee fun fact. There is a video on our YouTube channel where we go to Lurg Moor, Roman Fortlet. The hills in front of me, it's a little bit beyond that, off to the east, and actually there's a massive amount of old Roman roads. In fact, there's a old Roman road, which heads off to the left there, over the top. So, and there's apparently another fortlet somewhere up here. I don't know where that is. There's a sign towards it, but I've never been there, so I don't really know. But if you look on the map, you can find the Roman road maps on Google. And actually the roads come through these moors, one down that way, one down to the left, past these hills, apparently on the bottom of this hill. And they all lead back down to Ayr. So there's a lot of Roman history down here as well, in case that sort of thing interests you. They're doing quite a bit of work here. I don't know what that's all about. Once we get a bit further, I'll put back, once we get to the dam, I'll put the camera back on. So here's a view. That is Loch Tom, I guess. And the visitor centre in the distance. And the road to Largs over in the distance. We're coming up to this hill. Once we get to the top, it's basically just downhill again. In these hills, as mentioned before, a lot of the paths that are used now were originally old Roman roads. They still scatter this moor. I've got to wear my jacket so that I can put my mic on. Unfortunately, the temperature has really climbed and I'm sweating like a beast. I'm not out of breath, I'm actually overheating. Here's a bit of free advice for you. Whenever you go hiking anywhere, always make sure you turn around. Hey. Hiya. Looks like there's a few spots of purple on this heather, but most of it is gone now. More folk. Hi. So last stretch, came over those hills over there, last little dam, sun's trying to shine, we are nearly back at the car, the tourmobile. There's so much water up here. So much peat. fancy camera work. There you go. The mist is coming. Usually when you get here, what happens is that beyond this little ridge in front of us, it just dips down back down to Greenock, so you can see the Clyde. You can even see the top of Ben Lomond from here. You can see the Argyles, the Trossachs, you name it, you can see it. You can even see Dumbarton, Helensburgh, Gairloch. Yeah, that's pretty cool. See, the mist has caught up to us. It might even rain, because I noticed before I just put the camera back on that it was raining over the Clyde, but we're pretty much back at the car. You can already see the top, the chimneys of the house, which is right by the car park. So just as a last ditch effort, we're coming to the end, and we're going to try and do as many of these videos in the future as we can. We hope you enjoy them. The last stretch is really just getting back to the car, and that's that really. Let me turn this around. Another damn wall. And here we are. First we're going to say hello to this poor red dotted sheep. G'day, mate. Do you have to pee while we're filming you, Sunshine? Really? Honestly. Here we are. Back at the range. I've always wanted this house up here. Morning. Part of the old system. And look how the car park's filled up since we've been walking. So started walking at, well, what was it? 9:10. It is now 9 minutes past 12. But I did spend a lot of time at the visitor center, so there's always that. But here's our red tourmobile now, so that is it. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the show. Take care.